Hi everyone, how are you doing? Keeping well, I hope, and just as importantly, I hope you're keeping smiling. Keep finding those reasons to smile, because smiling is not only good for the soul, it's also good for the facial muscles as well. I mean, take me for example. I literally have no idea why people don't believe me when I tell them, I am 87 years old. What's my secret? Well, the secret is obviously the power of the smile. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, she really doesn't look a day over 21. Well, there you go. Keep smiling, folks, and you'll do for me. I'd like to start by talking a little bit about the stress response, the acute stress response, or otherwise known as the fight or flight response that we all suffer from time to time, some far more than others. So for those of you who are old enough like me, I'd like you to cast your minds back to the days when dinosaurs roamed the earth and how you might be out there having a little walk in the afternoon, and all of a sudden you're confronted by a saber-toothed tiger who springs out in front of you and decides, they look like a rather nice tasty lunch package. Now, at that particular moment, your body goes into this automatic response and you have two choices. You can either stand and fight, or you can turn tail and flee. At that split second, the body's an incredible machine anyway, but at that split second, the body makes all these choices, such as you will find that all of a sudden you will start to perspire. Because if you are running or fighting, your body's going to heat up and the perspiration will be there to cool the body down. You will find that your breathing starts to increase and you'll breathe quite shallowly, and you will recognise the shallow breathing, no doubt, when you do go into a state of anxiety. I'm going to talk a little bit about that very shortly. So as your breathing increases, your heart rate also increases as well, and that in turn means that your blood pressure goes up. Adrenaline and cortisol start coursing through the bloodstream. Your digestion shuts down, which is really interesting, isn't it? You think about how many people, whether that's yourself or people that you know, who suffer with things like irritable bowel syndrome. If we're in a constant state of stress and our digestive systems are in a constant state of shutdown, then it's hardly surprising, is it, that we are suffering from all these tummy-related problems. Blood sugar levels rise, and it may sound completely extreme, but your blood sugar levels can rise as though you've just eaten a few chocolate bars. That's just how much of an effect stress can have on the body. Your senses become heightened, so you become oversensitive, you become a bit more nervous, you become jumpy, you react, maybe you snap, maybe you feel tearful. The immune system, your own immune system, becomes very repressed. Again, think about yourself. If you live in a state of anxiety, what's your immune system like? Are you prone to picking up every single sniffle that's going, or do you know somebody who suffers a lot with anxiety and they always seem to be having one complaint after the other? The other thing as well is that when we're going to the stress response, that our blood thickens, because if we are in the middle of a fight and we get cut, the blood needs to clot quicker, obviously to save the blood loss. So from all these different things, these happen literally in an instant. You have absolutely no control over this. The body takes over, and this is what happens. Now, that's all well and good in a real life situation where you are having to fight or run for your life. You need this to happen to help you react. But if I was to tell you that our bodies still go into this response anything between 8 and 15 times a day, and hopefully it's not caused by something that's life-threatening, it can be caused by having an argument, somebody speaking unkindly to you. If you're like me and decide, I'll just pop on the computer to do something, it'll only take me a minute, and it doesn't take a minute and that turns into hours, that can be stressful. Driving on the road, somebody cuts you up, you have an immediate response. again, that's stressful. You get an email that you're not expecting, or anything unexpected that happens, immediately your body will go into this reaction. And long term, living in this state really isn't good for our health. Now, I don't want to get all depressing, but just to give you some idea of some of the symptoms that we can suffer from when we're constantly living in this state of anxiety, is that our heart perhaps may suffer. We tend to find that we become addicted to things. We seem to search for things. We have cravings for things. Stomach disorders I've already mentioned earlier. Infections, illnesses, we become far more susceptible to these things, and the list literally goes on. So with that little bit of background, hoping that you're following on with me, that being in this state of anxiety isn't a great place to be. So it really doesn't take a genius to work out what's happening and what sort of quality of life we're enduring when we are going through this acute stress response continually. So meditation, where does that come in? Well, the beauty about meditation is that, and this is all scientifically proven, by the way, there's nothing I can reel off to you right now. You're going to have to do your own research, but there's been lots and lots of studies out there, scientific studies about the benefits of meditation and just what it can do for you. Just to list some of the things, first of all, your breathing and your heart rate begins to slow. Now that's the opposite, isn't it, from when your heart's absolutely racing, your breathing becomes very shallow and we can go into a state of hyperventilation. If you were to sit now, please don't do this, but if you were to sit and just start to breathe really shallowly, you would feel the changes in your body. But as soon as we start to breathe slowly, everything starts to settle, everything starts to sink, and we get this feeling of calmness that eventually comes about. It's not instantaneous, please don't get me wrong. And the thing with meditation is that it is a practice. It's called a practice, and that means we have to do it over and over again. And it becomes easier. The more we do it, the easier it becomes. So meditation is wonderful for strengthening the immune system, and I think we all need a little bit of this right now, don't we? Our digestive process becomes more efficient, so it may be that if you are suffering with lots of tummy troubles that are stress related, and I have to say at this point, you know, if you are in any doubt about your own physical health, that you really must go and see your GP. But it can help. If you think again about when we are in this state of anxiety, the butterflies in our stomachs that we get, the tightness, the tight feeling in the stomach, all that can help to release. We become more mindful, we become more focused and less scattered. I don't know, you know, there are times when there can be so many things running through your head that you can get yourself completely worked up and end up running around like a headless chicken without really knowing what you're doing, and you'll walk into places, you'll forget things, and life just becomes a complete muddle. Just bear with me a second. I think we might have a cat joining us, so I'm just going to try and evade my equipment just falling on top of me, so just bear with me. In fact, I'll put you on pause. Right, I'm back. Disaster averted there. Now, where was I? Cats, you gotta love them, haven't you? And dogs, and any animal at all, really. Okay, so meditation reduces that anxiety that we're going through, helps us to get some form of clarity, helps us to think much clearer, helps us to react a lot clearer as well. So what it does is it changes this automatic response, and remember that we can have this response up to 8 to 15 times a day. So it can alter, it can start to really bring things into perspective for us. We can become more reflective instead of reactive, if you like. We become more intuitive as we take time to go within ourselves our intuition kicks in. And intuition, for those of you who are going on any sort of spiritual journey, will know just how valuable our own intuition is, and that we really must listen to that when it kicks in. We can begin to see the bigger picture rather than the narrow view that perhaps we might have right now. We become more alert and more creative, which is always wonderful, isn't it, being creative. Our minds seem to be able to expand into that part of us where we can express ourselves far better than when we're being repressed down by all these anxious feelings. We become more relaxed, that's quite obvious, and we become less irritated. Now, it's not easy at this moment in time, is it, when we're all cooped up with each other? So if we can become less irritated, I think that's good for all our health right now, isn't it? We become more peaceful, more content with ourselves, and we can begin to enjoy a more normal sleep pattern. It's very interesting how once we can start to learn how to begin to bring in the effects of meditation, how our sleeping pattern changes. And that's always a good thing, isn't it? There's nothing worse than not getting a good night's sleep. And of course, when I speak to many people, and they'll say just how much they worry about not sleeping, and the more they worry about not sleeping, the more they don't sleep, and it's just this continuous cycle, isn't it, of worry, not sleeping, worry, not sleeping, and so it continues. So lots and lots of benefits there to meditation. I hope it's beginning to sort of nudge your curiosity somewhat to give it a go, because there's lots of different forms of meditation out there. It's not just all about sitting. I don't know what your preconceived ideas about meditation are at all, but it's not just about sitting and chanting, or sitting for hours in silence in this perfect blissful state. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? But let's be practical here. As well as guided meditations, there's some wonderful mindful meditations, there's walking meditations, there's lots and lots of different things that you can do. One of the things that I just want to mention is about breathing, because I do know some of you suffer with turning the attention to the breath. That in itself can cause anxiety. So I've been doing quite a little bit of thinking about this reaction that we have when we're asked to focus on the breath. And I just want to reiterate the body's automatic response. So we don't have to think, do we, about whether our heart is beating. It will beat regardless. We don't have to think about, I don't know, breathing. Obviously we don't have to think about breathing. If we did, that would be a full-time job in itself, wouldn't it? Our body automatically breathes. If you've ever been winded, especially as a kid, if you haven't fallen flat on your back and you've had all the air knocked out of you, there is that split second or two, isn't there, when suddenly you'll think, oh my gosh, am I ever going to start breathing again? But of course the body kicks in. The body is there to protect you. The body has an amazing way of making sure that we survive. So if in the first instance we can sort of logically speak to ourselves and hopefully reiterate to ourselves that we're not going to stop breathing. Our body won't allow that. Our body will continue to breathe. And if we can recognise as we turn our attention to our breath, the feelings of panic that are arising, rather than getting away with those feelings of anxiety and panic, to actually almost take a step back from yourself and treat yourself as a little bit of an experiment. Treat yourself with a little bit of curiosity. So what's going on here right now? What am I feeling? That's interesting. So I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. And sit with that. It might be uncomfortable to begin with, but rather than running away from it and going, oh no, I can't do that, I can't meditate, I can't concentrate on the breath because it induces these feelings. Let's explore these feelings and see what's going on. A lovely friend of mine who teaches mindfulness all over the world, Faye, if you're watching, love you to bits. The last time we met up, when we have some great meetings, some great conversations, when we can stop laughing, that is, She said to me that there is a sort of recognition of your mind making stories up. And it does, doesn't it? Your mind makes all sorts of untruths and stories up. And catching yourself at the moment of that happening and actually going, oh, here we go again. You know, what stories am I making up this time? And as she's explained this to me, I thought, you know what, I absolutely love that, because it's true, isn't it? We make up all these things about what might happen and what happens if this happens. And it's all fantasy. It's not true. It's not real. So as soon as we can recognise that the mind is going off on one, we can stop ourselves in our tracks and actually have a bit of a giggle about ourselves that, here we go again, you know, what am I doing? And it's that recognition. So going back to the breath, going back to just talking about shallow breathing, which is something a lot of us do regardless. We only ever breathe from the top part of the lungs. And ideally, we do need to get into the habit of breathing deeper into the lungs, getting down into the real recess of the lungs and getting that stale air out there rather than keeping it within. If you are shallowly breathing, which means you're taking in just a small in-breath and then a small out-breath, then of course, as you're not emptying, your lung capacity is remaining quite full. So when somebody asks you to take a breath, if you already have full lungs because you're not exhaling deeply, then of course you can't get any more breath into your lungs because it's already full. But the mind is telling you that you can't breathe. The reason you can't breathe is because there's plenty of air in there already. So why not just try a really deep exhalation? And you can do this by a form of a huge sigh. So just literally and prolong that sigh. Let all that stale air out. You could simply exhale by pursing the lips together and forcing the breath out of the lungs and continuing. When you feel as though you've got right to the end of that breath, squeeze the abdomen in so it squeezes the last drops of air out of the lungs, and wait for that next breath to come in, and it will. Believe you me, you are not going to stop breathing altogether. Remember the times if you were ever winded and you feel that you were going to stop breathing but you didn't, because the breath kicks in, because the body is there for your survival and you've just got to trust that. So if you can do a little bit of homework, for those of you that struggle with focusing on the breath, perhaps laying in bed at night, put one hand on your heart, one hand on your abdomen, and just mindfully breathe and really allow that breath to leave the body, really empty the lungs, and then watch as that next breath comes in. And with practice, and it will take practice, okay, with practice you will really start to see a lot of benefits just by introducing that deep breathing that you can do several times a day. You can do it more or less at any time of the day, maybe for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever time you can spare. Just spend that fully releasing the lungs. Concentrate more on the exhalation. Just allow the inhalation just to gently arise. There's lots more that I would like to talk to you about. I'm not going to do it all now. I'm hopefully going to produce a short set of more videos for you. I'd like to do some small meditations, some quick meditations that you can follow on, maybe ones that you can tag together so you can lengthen that meditation practice if you wish. The last thing that I'm going to leave you with as well is one of the biggies that people think why they can't meditate, and that is because they can't clear the mind. The mind is really busy. Well, if I was to tell you that you have between 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day, that's between 1 or 2 thoughts every second, then yeah, your mind is really busy, and it will continue to be busy. Meditation isn't about clearing the mind. We're not going to achieve that. That is giving us something impossible to do. And I read or heard somewhere that the Dalai Lama, who is on his 8th incarnation, still has meditations where he can't calm his mind. Now, if he can't do it and he's had 8 incarnations to practice, you know, I think we need to cut ourselves a little bit of slack. Thoughts will come in to your meditation. So please, 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 if you're one of these people that says, I can't meditate because my mind's too busy, I want you to forget that right now. And what I want you to do is I want you to incorporate those thoughts into your meditation. So what we do is we allow a thought to come in, but instead of going with the thought, so let's just say, for example, something comes into your head. Oh, I forgot to take something out of the freezer for my tea. What am I going to do? Am I going to call into this shop? Oh, did I pick my dry cleaning up? Oh, I've forgotten to do this. Oh, such and such never emailed me. Oh, I do need to ring. And you know how the mind just goes and it chatters away and it goes from one thing to another, and before you know it, you've started off with one thing and you've ended up on a complete tangent, and between that there's been 1,000,001 thoughts that have raced through your mind. The key to this is that thought comes in and you go, okay. So you've allowed the thought to come in, but you stop yourself from replying to that thought, almost as though you're observing a conversation between 2 other people. You're just listening, but you're not joining in. So your thought comes in, you acknowledge it, and then just let it go. And then just go back to that part of the meditation you were in, whether it was following the breath, whatever type of meditation you're doing, and another thought will come in. And you do exactly the same thing, acknowledge it, but then just let it go. And keep on. Every time those thoughts come in, it's like, that's okay, that's fine. Because the more we work with it, the more distractions we get, the more adept we get at meditating, because we can then start to just bat these distractions out of the way. And that length of peace in between the thoughts, believe you me, will increase. So that's one of the fallacies, that I can't meditate because I can't quiet the mind. The second one is that, it's far too noisy. I can't get any peace. There's always something disturbing me. Again, use those sounds as part of the meditation. So rather than letting those sounds take control, so say, for example, your neighbour's dog starts barking, and at that trigger that pulls you away, rather than thinking, that blooming dog, I wish they'd shut up, where they are, where are the owners, why aren't they doing something about it? Whatever it is, you might start going on with that train of thought. All you do is you hear a dog barking, and then you return your awareness back to the meditation. And you may hear the dog barking again. Is that okay? But then we return it back. So we recognise that we've been drawn away by something has grabbed our attention, and that's okay. So the key is just to bring the awareness back. The third thing is feelings and sensations that arise while we are meditating. So it might be that all of a sudden you start getting all these aches and pains and niggles that you never even knew you had, and it'll be, where's this come from? What's that come from? And again, your mind wanders, and it's, again, all would say, okay, that's fine. So there's an ache in the knee or the neck or whatever it may be, that's fine, that's caught my attention, I acknowledge that it's there, let's go back to the meditation. And just continuously practicing the fact that we get distracted, but we can bring our focus back. It doesn't matter how many times you're disturbed, just keep bringing that awareness back. The key is that you are practicing, and it will become easier. Every meditation that you do will be different. Some will go like that you can't believe that you've actually been sat there for 5 or 10 minutes. Other ones, you'll be sat there and you'll be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm bored. You might get frustrated, wondering what the time is. Open your eyes, have a look at the time, and then go back into it. If you have an experience like that, doesn't mean to say that the next experience is going to be like that. It could be totally different. So what I'm trying to do, folks, is really to start encouraging you to look at some different forms of meditation to help bring that peace, that calmness into your life, help relieve that anxiety, help yourselves to start reacting differently, or really not reacting, I suppose is a better way of putting it, not reacting to things in a way that you would normally react to. Just let things roll off your back, just let things glide, just let things slide. I'm sure the times we are in now, you are realising what's important and what's not important. I hope that's a lesson that we're all learning right now. Okay, I've rambled on long enough. If you're still with me, brilliant. Thanks for staying with me. I did intend to keep this short, but those who know me and know my other half as well know that we do ramble on. So I will do some more, hopefully short snippets of guided meditations just to help things along. If you've any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. That's what I'm here for. Whack your questions in the comments pages. Might even do a live feed. If you'd like me to do a live feed where we can do a live questions and answer session, quite happy to do that. But I'm going to sign off from now, and I'm just going to say thanks very much for bearing with me. And talking of bearing, keep grinning and bearing this situation. Keep smiling, folks. Keep connected and keep in touch. Love you lots. Take care now. Bye.